Maybe we'll just kick off. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining in on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm sure it's very, very busy time. So, wanted to very quickly just thank you all for joining. I think the purpose of this session is to just answer any questions that you may have, kind of walk through what Fast Forward is all about. And, it'd be super helpful if you can put your questions in the Q&A section. I think I saw a few hands raised. So let's use the Q&A section to kind of populate in all the questions. We'll basically go through the list of all the questions and kind of clear out whatever doubts you may have. And with that, we'd love to introduce Anjali and ask her to kind of give us a quick overview and kind of take us through this, and then we can jump right into the question.
Awesome. Thanks and good evening, everyone. And thanks for joining our AMA 3 session. We host these every Tuesdays throughout April, which is when we conduct the Fast Forward program. And like Nilesh said, the idea really is to answer as many questions as possible, be it on the application, sectors, ticket sizes, valuation, etc. So feel free to start using the Q&A section in the panel below to dump in your questions. But quickly, before we deep dive, I thought it would be useful to start with why we started Fast Forward, and secondly, how do we decide so quickly? I think it's very clear Fast Forward is very simply an accelerated funding commitment that we give to startup founders. So it's a one-of-a-kind early stage seed program where every application gets a response within a week. We make you an offer within 2 weeks, and we hope for money in the bank within 30 days. The idea really is that, most founders always have given us feedback that whether you're raising 100K or $1 million, just the energy, effort, and the entire process is very long drawn. It's complex, it's multiple pitches. And it almost seems like the inbox of a VC is like this, black box, and you just don't know. It's like a black hole from, you never know if you'll hear back or not. So we thought to make this fair and to make this transparent, we will respond to every application. And more importantly, we'll enable a fully online remote digital process where founders give us a single application. The application has been designed to ask as many questions as we normally would spend the first 15 minutes of a Zoom pitch doing. So all the general stuff on founder backgrounds, why are you best suited to build this problem, product decks, mock-ups, tell us a little bit about your team, your cap table, your angels. So we've tried to cover, we have 41 questions in the application. So try to get in as many details up ahead. So as investors, even we are better prepared when we see you virtually on Zoom. But more importantly, if we could take the single application and share it with multiple other of our VC partners so that a single application enables founders to pitch to a plethora of funds. And broadly, if you look at all our VC partners, they fit into 3 large buckets. The first group are the angel syndicates and the super angels, as we call them. So these are individuals, CXOs, senior folks, and now investing. The second group is industry experts and sector-focused VC funds. So we have Purelin, for example, that's healthcare-focused, Enzia, that's, again, EdTech and healthcare-focused. We have Season 2 that specializes in the India-US B2B corridor. So the idea was to bring in a sector knowledge and lend domain expertise to the cap table beyond just the money and the capital. And the third bucket is what I call the SaaS, cloud, and the business partners bucket, where beyond just seed checks and angel checks, how do we embed you into the business and the early stage ecosystem so that you could find your first customer, your first senior talent, your first hire, your first vendor, and how do we accelerate some of that? So we've tied up with SaaS and cloud partners to give you up to 200K of discounts, of credits to world-class market-leading SaaS tools like HubSpot, Freshworks, Zendesk, a whole bunch of them, Miro. It's on the Fast Forward website, so we'd encourage you to head there and check out the list. And also, how do we kind of give you a VIP access and a referral of our own into India's top accelerator programs. And these are corporate accelerators. So Microsoft, Accenture, Cisco, NetApp. We're working with the Wipro consumer care folks. And therefore, if you're a company that fits into their domain, how do we make those introductions and accelerate your journey? So that's very briefly about, I would say, what Fast Forward does for founders and how the application is designed. In terms of the second part as to how do we decide so quickly and do we have any sector preferences? For those of you who have already perused the applications, and the applications are now open and are being invited, you'd note that we've put out 6 broad sectors of interest specific to WaterBridge, of course. And as you know, the program is designed that WaterBridge invests or commits up to $500,000 And together with our partners, our ambition and hope is that we enable founders to raise larger rounds faster and earlier. So specific to WaterBridge's areas of and sectors of interest, we largely would like to focus on edtech, on fintech, on healthcare, but healthcare with tech, so more med and health tech, I would say, and B to what we like to call small B, which is fundamentally the India SME and the mid-market India B2B SaaS. And of course, there's a global, B2B and the global enterprise SaaS. And finally, we have consumer. And within consumer, while consumer is super vast and can technically include anything from mobility to gaming to e-commerce, I think specifically we like platforms. And you can quickly go through our portfolio, which is up on our website, and you'll see that most of the consumer bets that we've taken are platform plays rather than investing in, say, a D2C brand, etc. So I think we tend to shy away from operationally intensive, offline distribution heavy kind of brands. And the consumer side, our preference is for digital first, internet economy driven platform plays. So with that, I think I'll just take a quick pause and hand it back to Nilesh. And once again, just start punching in your questions. And between the two of us, we'll try to answer and get in as many questions as possible during this session.
Super. Just a couple of points that I wanted to add to what Anjali said. I think she's the superstar partner on this, and she's written a lot of amazing content. A lot of the questions that you may have, a lot of kind of the repeated kind of, if you want to look at these sectors again, you're on a scramble for notes. I'm putting in a few links on the chat box, and those are basically some super articles that Anjali's written about, what we look for, what you should think about, what the application looks like. And there's also an FAQ section on our website, which actually answers quite a bit. So if you have a chance, do take a look there, but we'll obviously run through the questions. I think a couple of more points that I wanted to add, and this is based on the interactions we've had in the last 12, 13 days since we launched FastForward. I think a couple of things. One is I've heard from a lot of founders that, my company doesn't fit into exactly any one of these buckets that we've kind of put in there. And I think from our perspective, it's quite a challenge to boil down the entire world into checkboxes. So to the best of our ability, we've tried to create some structure out of it. And the real purpose of this is to just direct it to the right partner in the fund. So how, if someone, Anjali, for example, is fantastic at, e-commerce and B2B. So, we could funnel those deals directly to her. There's someone else who's really good at health tech. There's someone else who's really good at mobility. So really it's just about how you map. So I wouldn't get super hung up on exactly where it fits in that bucket. So that's one thing that I wanted to just add to it. And the second piece is, I think referral codes has been another area where there's been a bit of confusion. So basically a referral code is just, if you have someone in the WaterBridge ecosystem who's kind of given you a referral code, that helps us kind of fast track a little bit. Again, in a 7-day timeline, maybe you'll get it in 5 days as opposed to 6. So I don't think it's a huge loss. So definitely don't break your head over, I don't have a referral code. Will this really count against me? I think in general, we look at every application, we give everything the similar weightage. The referral code just helps us keep track of, whether there's some internal partner who's passed it on or some internal partner who's referred it. We use it for our internal kind of organization perspective. So don't worry about the referral codes, and do check out all the links that I've just put in on the chat window. And with that, maybe we'll jump in right to the questions. I see a few already. So I'll start off with the first one, which is from Preetham, who's asking, can companies that have been, and I assume this is companies that have been through an accelerator, can you apply to FastForward? And I think the answer is yes. We're open to all sorts of startups. You may have gone through another accelerator, gone through another seed program. I think what we define as a seed stage is really a business that's young enough, typically 18 to 24 months years old, typically still trying to prove out a lot about their business, and really looking for that bucket of 200K to 500K in terms of funding. So I think it's more about where the company is along its journey rather than, where it has been before. So I think that's the answer to the first one. I think I'll also take the second one since my name is on there. So Rohan, I think, sorry to hear that you missed FastForward last time. I think a lot changes in a year. Obviously, the company, the business, everything has kind of changed since last year. And I think the world has also changed since last year. So would encourage you to just put in another application. I think we've tried our best to kind of have all the questions be relevant and time specific. So you may not have answered the same thing last year versus this year. So absolutely happy to kind of reevaluate if you can put in another application and do kind of try and complete as much as possible. As Anjali mentioned, it helps us kind of cut time on the other processing piece. Otherwise, we'll have to call and we'll take a 2-hour call instead of a 1-hour call, et cetera, et cetera. So really the objective of putting all those questions is to figure out how we can get the right information for us to kind of move fast. So absolutely, please do go ahead and apply again. Ajay, do you want to take the next one? Or Shall I?
Sure, I can do that. I'm just going to go down to Anonymous. Can you mention exactly what parameters would be required on the pitch deck? I think there's no straight 1 minute answer to this, but having asked that, let me just take a step back and help you understand the way we designed the application. I think, as I mentioned, if I remember, there are about like 40 odd questions. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are not. But first up, I would just encourage you to give us a complete application. And you'll see there's a healthy combination of long form answers as well as checkbox, multiple choice, etc. And our idea really is to understand, I would say, three broad areas. One is founders and founder backgrounds. Why do you believe you're the best founder, the best team to solve for this problem? And secondly, in terms of timing, why do you believe now is the right time to solve for it? And what are like your unfair and non-linear advantages? I would say that's something that we really press hard or try to understand and read between the lines as we peruse the founder section of the application. The second predominant section is about markets. We ask a lot of questions around how large the market size is, what are the growth rates, what's the competitive intensity, do we have deep pocketed incumbents, is this like a high cash burn business, what will it take to acquire customers, are you monetizing, are you not monetizing, what are the challenges of scale, and a lot of questions, of course. We are capitalists by definition, and we like large scalable businesses, and we like to solve real world problems. But it's important for us to understand where you are in your journey. These are all FastForward is a seed program. So we understand that you might not have revenue, and 50%, in fact, of the applications that we're receiving are pre-revenue companies. We fully understand that, but what we're trying to gauge with these questions around market is what really is the potential to scale, how quickly can you monetize, and how large a company can you build, and what are some of the competitive advantages that you have to launch that idea or that product today, and how are you best suited to do it. I think if these things are kind of broadly also represented in your pitch deck, it really helps us. What we find incredibly useful is to also give us if you might not be revenue earning, but you might be already interacting with a lot of customers. It might be a free product. It could be like early pilots, early customer adoption, or you could just be an edtech company that's spoken to 200 parents and kids and done workshops. And what we really look for are these unique primary research-led customer insights that tell us what are the inflection points, how your customer is thinking, and what really is your right to win in your given space and in the business model that you're chasing. So I think we really look for unique insights, and do remember that in every space, we receive, we've already received over 500 applications. So as we do already see a lot of decks. We are unfortunately in the business of saying no more than we say yes. And no pitch is evaluated in a silo. Every opportunity is assessed and evaluated, relative to another opportunity. And we always internally debate on which one should we invest in. So therefore, it's important for you to keep that vantage point in mind from where we evaluate deals, and to convince us as to why this is the sector, and this is the business model, and this is the founding team that we need to chase. Finally, I would say it just helps a lot to plug in. If you don't have a live app or even an app in testing or beta, do share product mockups with us. It just helps us understand what the customer journey is a little better, how the UI UX looks, and really helps us like visualize the product, beyond just the pitch deck. And finally, I would say put out a great video. I think there's a reason we have asked for the video. And therefore, anything that you couldn't communicate in text or to specific long form questions, the video is like free flowing. So use that to add whatever extra that you might want to share. Yeah.
Super. I'll grab the next two questions. So Nanta's question is about, a slight correction in the document. And Nanta, I think what you can do is when you get the confirmation email from Jotform saying that your application has been submitted, you can actually reply to that with an attachment and the new document. So that should work. But typically the way that it works is from our perspective, we get the application, we kind of spend a lot of time going through all the questions, the video. And again, I can't stress enough how much we really appreciate the video, because it shows us all the parts that we can't see through, just word and text. So like how the founders are, how passionate they seem. And really, so those are basically, you can have all your documents. And if there's ever a correction, I would recommend you kind of send that when you can, because if it's a large enough correction that you think is noteworthy, then do send it across. If it's a minor correction or like a small typo or something, that's totally fine. You can take it on the one-on-one session and say, look, there's a small number change or something else. So based on the gravity of how big the change is, do send it in. But the way to do it is just reply to the automatic jot form confirmation, and that will tag it to on our end to the same application. So that's this one. And just wanted to kind of take Tarun's question as well, which I think Anjali had already kind of answered. But it's kind of difficult to prescribe a traction number. How much traction is too much traction or too little traction. I think the way that we kind of view it is that most founders start off with a hypothesis, right? That there's something in the world or some kind of agenda that we want to kind of prove out, right? And your hypothesis, you're proving out through different stages. So in the seed stage, you need to have enough to kind of say, look, this hypothesis is something that makes sense. It could be in the form of revenue earning customers. It could be in the form of kind of interactions with other customers. It could be potential customers. So, it's hard to prescribe across sectors and across spaces what the right amount of traction is. But, typically what we'd like to see is a really well-made hypothesis. Like, look, the other 3 insights that we've had, this is what we think will happen. And this is what we're trying to test. And so every startup is testing a set of hypotheses. So try and look for some traction that can help people gain perspective and gain kind of confidence in saying like, look, this is the right track. This is how we think this is a solution that is needed. So again, a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but I don't think there's a easy prescribable kind of number or a traction metric that I can give. But generally, think of it from our perspective, where we're trying to understand, this is the hypothesis and we want to test it. So look for that minimum amount of testing that you can do, which will help us gain more conviction around this potential solution.
You want me to take Ashish Jha's question, which
Yes.
is around MVP and white labeling a product? I think, again, no straight answer for this. I think the important thing is to showcase your competency and the fact that you've built a product where early customer adoption has already happened. And like you said, some folks are willing to pay for it as well. We do understand this is a seed fund. So by definition, we understand that a lot of you would be very early in your experimentation. Many of you might not even have a company set up, and you might have achieved some early or initial PMF just doing something with collaborating with other folks to keep like development costs down. I don't see that as a problem as long as the customer metrics have been encouraging and healthy, and therefore, if not anything, encourage you to spin away, build and set up your own company. So I would say that do just mention it as is in the application. And of course, if this is something that's really exciting, at the right time, we will like have lawyers sent your way and get it carved into a separate company. But a simple answer is not a problem. Please do go ahead and apply, and would kind of love to see the product, even though it's sitting in somebody else's platform, and excited to see what customers liked about it. Yeah.
Super. I think
the next one is, what are the factors?
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. What are the factors in a startup that are considered vital? Again, super tough question. But I think you'll get multiple hints with just the kind of questions that we have asked in the application. It's in many ways just letting out the Waterbridge secret sauce, I feel, in the way in which we think and we evaluate companies. And we really over-index on founders, and at least at Waterbridge, we put founders ahead of markets. And what that really means is that, yes, while we do have a sector focus, and there are 6 broad sectors that we are bullish on as a team, if we do meet a group of missionary folks, eclectic founders who have built like this super product in a sector that we may not be so familiar with ourselves, we will go ahead and take that leap of faith and make that bet. So I think I would say over-index on yourselves. Why are you as a founding team best suited to build this? What are your unfair advantages? Are you playing to your strengths? If you're a tech company, is there a CTO, amongst yourself? Is code proprietary? Is it outsourced? If you're a B2C company, have you personally dealt with this problem before? It could be in a previous startup, a previous corporate job profile, or you simply face this problem as a consumer and wanted to solve for it. I think that perspective in terms of have you faced this problem firsthand, and are you solving a problem that you've experienced yourself, is something that we also always ask. And we are tech investors, end of the day. All our bets, the common denominator is in technology products or platforms. So we always ask as to who's the tech guy in the founding team, how confident are you about the stack, about how proprietary it is. Is technology your biggest moat? That's something that we always internally ask ourselves. And I would say, yeah, I think broadly this together with what I've already mentioned, and again, would just encourage you to head to our LinkedIn page. And we do have like 2 long form articles written out there in like good 10-15 minute reads, which could help you deep dive and better answer and better prepare for the application. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll take the next 2 questions and club them together. I think it's related to the Google Ads and the performance marketing question. So I think the objective behind this question was more to understand, it's not a gauge of where you are with performance marketing, and it's not an SEO, SEM question. It's more of understanding, have you figured out exactly what your value proposition is and how would you sell it, right? So the idea behind this question is to understand, if tomorrow I'm selling shoes, right? My top athletic shoes. That's what I'm selling. That's what I'm trying to get out there. And the objective behind this question is to encapsulate your entire value proposition into a few small searchable words, right? So it's definitely not a question to say, you're like a week old or 2 weeks old, how is your Google Analytics doing? How many people have hit your website? That's not the objective. I think this is a clever way of asking, or at least we thought a clever way of asking, do you know exactly what you're doing? Do you know exactly what you're selling? And say you had to kind of convey that in the shortest possible space, which Google AdWords is an example of something you pay for, right? You pay to get your word out there. What are those words that you use? And I think that just helps show like a lot of clarity in the founder's mind and the founding team's mind, that they know exactly like, this is what we're doing. This is our value proposition. This is how we're going to appeal to our customers. And it's like the way that you broadcast that to the world. So I think that's the answer. And that's the answer to both the questions is more of figuring out, is the founding team super clear on what they're doing? Are they super clear and able to encapsulate in a few words what they're bringing to the table? And it's less of a question around, how sophisticated are you on the Google Analytics side or the Google Ads side? Like all that will come with time. But this is more of understanding, should you be able to have the top 3 Google AdWords, like what would they be? And it's for us to get a sense of what we expect the business to kind of look like at scale. So I will knock these 2. And I think the last one is, can you define unfair? Do you want to take that? Or should I?
Yeah, I think it was in response to what I previously answered on what do you mean by unfair advantage, and fair enough. So thank you for nudging more. And I think top of my mind, what I can immediately think of in terms of what helps us establishing confidence in the founding team is, I just quickly mentioned this earlier, is have you experienced this problem firsthand, and what you're solving for? Is it a problem that you experienced as a consumer, or in a prior avatar as say like your previous gig, or as a student even, or even a previous job or professional role that you had? And therefore, what are the unique insights that you are bringing to this problem? I think that's super critical for us, because it gives you tons of unfair advantages if you've solved this problem from a different vantage point, because straight off the bat, it gives you like a network of people in that sector, in that space that you already have, that you could reach out to, helps you find your first customer faster. You know how to solve like top of mind problems faster. And to that point on marketing, I think if you've been in that situation before, it's probably gives you some kind of an unfair advantage in just getting off the blocks faster. I think the second thing would be, and one of the questions we've in fact asked, is the composition of your cap table, and have you been through any of these seed programs or accelerator programs? And while I wouldn't say that it's a vehement yes, I think it does lend some credibility if you have raised money from not necessarily like angel syndicates or super angels, but could be just your previous, boss or friends who have been in this space, sector experts, domain experts. I think that lends like significant credibility to your application, and the fact that people are willing to bet their own personal money into your startup, and therefore makes you a more backable founder. So this is like, I would say, general 2 cents on like, irrespective of FastForward, is that try and see if you could quickly secure a couple of angels on your cap table. The amounts are secondary, but just try to get the right set of angels to back you, and that definitely gives us a bunch of positive notes about the founding team and their ability to convince people to back them. And especially, like I said, if it's sector focused folks who not just lend capital, but a lot of strategic value, mentoring, advising, insights. etc. And then the last thing is again on the tech piece. I guess since at Waterbridge we are tech first investors and we look for technology to be your unfair advantage, we do ask if are you a founding team with a CTO in it, or is your first hire going to be a CTO? Are you able to write code yourself? Are you working with somebody else? So the very heart of what you're building, is there proprietary algos, patentable products? Is there original brand IP? What is really the long-term moat when competition catches up? And what will really keep you differentiate? I think those are some of the questions we again keep asking ourselves internally as we evaluate companies. And that for me would broadly be 3 areas, I would say. So quickly summarizing, I would say try to get hold of some angels. If you've solved for the problem yourself, do share with us those unique insights that you believe you have that no one else has. And the last point is on the tech, and who's really building it, and if not tech, what's really the original IP, brands, patentable technology? Is there anything there that could be a moat when competition catches up or when somebody else raises capital ahead of you? We firmly believe capital alone cannot be a moat. And therefore, we keep asking ourselves, especially in high burn consumer businesses, that if somebody else with far higher capital and therefore ability to burn more on customer acquisition comes into the market, then what will give us that right to win?
Yeah, I think I'll also add, a live example about what Anjali mentioned at the beginning, right? I'll give you an example from our portfolio of someone we've already backed who's kind of got that unfair advantage, right? And I think we can talk about Atlan and Prakalpa, who was initially, they had built this is a company called Social Cops. So Prakalpa is one of the founders that we backed, and she and Varun had started this company called Social Cops, and they were dealing with troves and troves of data, right? So they're dealing with data. And from that perspective, as they went through their first startup, they learned that data has a lot of problems. It's really hard. It's not interoperable. It's very difficult to manage. And so when they actually moved and started off Atlan, Atlan is a company that kind of uses and builds a human to data interaction layer, right? So from this perspective, having been somebody who's actually used and experienced the problem, she had a lot of insights around, how should the product look? Why does this team have the right to win? Why does this team kind of solve the real problems, right? And so that's an example of kind of an unfair advantage, which is you have a huge head start on everybody else. And this is just an example, 1 out of 4 that Anjali just mentioned, right? 1 out of 4 where we were super impressed with the insights that she came with, the direction, the product roadmap, the way that she was kind of articulating why this was a problem and how it could be solved. I think those are the things that really appeal to us to say, look, this is the type of person who is really knee deep and really in the weeds for the data space. And so she'd be the right type of team and right type of person to kind of start backing a data company, right? So that's just a real life example from our portfolio of someone that kind of encapsulates that. So just wanted to kind of tack that on as well. I think I'm going to take Ashish's question about the referral. Like absolutely, your angel and mentor can be the one who refers you. There's no kind of hard and fast rule that it's 2 different people. Typically, there's 2 sections. There's someone who refers you. Then there's also we'll do reference checks to just make sure that every now and then we love to kind of we're not the VCs will go and just do a reference check behind your back and be like, just talk to someone of your connections and be like, hey, Ashish, what kind of person is Ashish? It's more around if you're validating and saying, look, the other 3 people I'm comfortable for you to talk with, we'd love to kind of get on a call with this person and say, can you tell me more about Ashish? What is he like to work with? What kind of person is he? So it absolutely can be your angel and mentor, and there's no reason why it wouldn't be. It usually helps to have a diversity of people. If you have different people kind of vouching for your professionalism, and then you have an angel and mentor on your cap table, like Anjali mentioned, that helps us also believe that there's an industry expert who is kind of on the cap table putting their personal money to back this vision, and there are also 3-4 other people who could speak very highly to their professionalism and their drive and their desire to succeed. That's definitely helpful, but there's no reason why it can't be the same person. I think Tarun's question around, what kind of expert can we get if you're like in the early stage of an edtech startup?
I could take that.
Sure, please.
I think
go ahead.
It's a good question and a good segue for me to talk about the mentors that we have for FastForward. And I think one thing I'd like to just start off with is that even though FastForward is a carved out dedicated seed program out of Waterbridge, we treat you on par. You aren't a second-class citizen within our portfolio, and we treat you on par with the rest of the portfolio. At Waterbridge, we've made 24 investments thus far, and therefore we have a lot of Series B++, C++ companies, senior founders who have been through the exact same journey as you have just started out on. And since Waterbridge is typically the first institutional VC and investor on the cap table. We literally join you at the very start during like seed, and we stick around with you for the first like 5-7 years, which are the most critical, parts of your journey. And that said, a lot of our senior founders have agreed to pay it forward and mentor the incoming cohort at FastForward. So I would encourage you to head to the FastForward website, check out our mentors page. And we have founders who have done B2B SaaS. We have founders who have done EdTech, consumer tech, who've built teams for India, built teams for global, for North America, for US. We've tried to get as a diverse group as possible. We have, CTO founders, we have business founders, and generally they're here to help you navigate this super complex and super fragile journey, I would say, where you really don't know what's going to happen beyond the next 2 quarters. Having said that, EdTech, of course, is one of our 6 areas and sectors of focus. As many of you know, we were one of the first to back Unacademy back in 2016 with like $1 million check, and it's been one of our most successful exits. So there is like very deep EdTech knowledge within just the partnership here, right here at Waterbridge. And it doesn't just start and stop at Unacademy, but as I was mentioning, we have Doubtnut. Doubtnut very recently, just 2 months ago, raised a very large 30 million plus Series B round. Waterbridge was their first backer, and post Waterbridge, they went into Sequoia's Search program. They've since raised capital from Omidyar, from Tencent, and most recently from James Murdoch's office and Susquehanna. So I think they've had an incredible growth journey, and we have been like with them from like literally day 0 and had a very privileged ringside view, I would say, to that growth. And both Aditya and Tanu have very kindly agreed to mentor the incoming cohort of FastForward. So if you're a tech startup that gets selected, we will most likely recommend and suggest that you get some officers out of them. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that also takes care of the question in the chat as well, which is, what kind of mentoring do you provide? I think idea stage companies is the last, I guess, outstanding question. So happy to say that we will evaluate idea stage companies as well. As you mentioned, right, it's like a hypothesis that you're testing. So having idea is one thing. Having an idea that you validate is a better proposition. So would encourage you to kind of try and find some level of traction. I think we definitely do encourage, some market feedback, something out there in the world to suggest, this hypothesis is correct. So would encourage you to kind of get some traction, get some numbers, get some metrics that can speak to what you're building, and that would be hugely helpful from our evaluation perspective. And yeah, I think that if they're happy to stay on for a couple of more minutes if there are any other questions, but looks like we've answered all the open questions. I think again would encourage you to kind of take a look at the. Sorry,
was just going to plug in very quickly that no stress if anyone's questions have not got answered today. We do put up the recordings of all our previous AMA sessions on our YouTube channel. On LinkedIn, you'll find like a lot of this already responded to, and Nilesh has already shared all the links. Just head to our FastForward website, and we keep updating the FAQ section over there as well. So no stress. And if you still want to hear from us, we appear here every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So feel free to share the word, spread the word, and encourage other founders, or just come back again next Tuesday and we'll still be here.
Super. Yeah. And do check out the chat. I think that's where those links are there. We're here every week. I think Tarun has another question on metrics. Again, Tarun, hard to exactly tell you. Depends on the business, to be quite frank with you. Depends on the business, depends on exactly where you are. But the recording will be up. I think we'd answered this question in detail earlier on. Maybe you had missed it. So we'll put the YouTube up. You'll find it on LinkedIn. You'll find it on YouTube. So do just take a look on metrics. We had a whole like maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5-minute answer on metrics and what's important and how you gauge that. So I'd encourage you to just take a look at this recording again. And yeah, the YouTube link will be done once the Zoom is done. So you'll have to follow us on Pranav. You'll have to follow us on LinkedIn, and there's like this process. Once you end the Zoom, then it goes to LinkedIn, and then there's this whole process. So I can't give you the link right now, but yeah, you'll find it.
Just follow Waterbridge Ventures on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm talking a lot on there anyway, so feel free to ignore everything else and just get the YouTube link. But anyway, that's everything from our end. Don't seem like there are any other questions. So again, we'll be back again next Tuesday. We're not far away. You can just join in next Tuesday again, and Yeah, thank you. That's all that I had, Anjali. Anything else from your end?
Nope, that's it. Thank you so much. And just a quick thing that we're also beginning to host webinars with each of our VC partners beginning tomorrow, 4 to 5:30 in association with TIE Bangalore. And every Wednesday, you will see up to 3 of our VC partners come along and present and just share what their investment focus, ticket sizes, sector preferences for India are. So beyond just Waterbridge, and if you'd like to meet some of our other VC partners, just quickly stay tuned on our LinkedIn handle or even the TIE Bangalore LinkedIn page, and would love to see some of you present on our Wednesday webinars, as we call it, where we invite other VC partners to join us and share their thoughts on the ecosystem.
Awesome. Cool. I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Anjali. Thank you everyone for joining, and appreciate your time. So see you next Tuesday, perhaps. See you on YouTube, see you wherever. But yeah, excited to hear and excited to hear from you, excited for your applications, and good luck. Thanks, Anjali.